Hey guys, thank you for joining us for our fourth and final week in our Frugal February series. Don't forget to check out the two channels we're collabing with, the Sasker Family and Sweet Mountain Pioneer. The links for their videos will be in the description. If you enjoy this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to share this on your social media. This week, I am going to show you how I make deodorant at home for very little money. It is all natural, food grade products, and it works actually really well. One thing about making deodorant is it is not antiperspirant. Our bodies were designed to sweat. We're made to sweat. That's how we release toxins, and it's really important. But it's also not fun to walk around smelling like you've been sweating. And so I'm going to show you how I make deodorant that'll keep you smelling nice even in the warm months of the year. So this is all that goes into my deodorant. We have coconut oil, baking soda, this is arrowroot powder, flour, starch, all the same thing, and some essential oils. I like geranium, and the brand I use is Revive. And if you're interested in trying some essential oils from Revive, you can click the link in the description and get 10% off your first order. I'm gonna start with 1/3 of a cup of coconut oil. And it really doesn't matter whether your coconut oil is liquid or solid, just gonna depend on your climate and the temperature it is there right now. If it's pretty much liquid, this process will be easier. And it's gonna be slightly different textures depending on whether the coconut oil is soft or not, but it's gonna work all the same. All right, we're just gonna put that into our bowl. I'm not gonna put this into the container that I'm storing it in yet because it's gonna be a lot easier to mix it in a big bowl, and then it will store into a container much smaller than this. Then I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of the baking soda. Some people find that the baking soda bothers their armpits, it irritates the skin. If it does, you can try cutting back or you can leave it out completely. I have been making this recipe for probably about 6 years now, and I don't have any issues with the baking soda. Michael did find that this recipe bothered his armpits, but he also used about 4 times the amount that I use on his armpits. So it may have something to do with that. The original recipe calls for 1/4 cup of arrowroot and 1/4 cup of cornstarch, which works really well, and I did that for a long time. But I've recently found out that corn really bothers me, and so since I don't really have cornstarch in the house anymore, I just double the amount of arrowroot, and it works about the same. The only difference is that the arrowroot has more of an off-white color, and the cornstarch is a little whiter, and so the color of my deodorant is a little bit more of a tan color than white. That's really the only difference. Now I'm going to add probably 15 to 20 drops of the geranium essential oil. You can also mix oils. You don't have to use this. Lavender is really nice. Whatever you prefer. It's really just personal preference. And now all we do is mix it around. Even if your coconut oil is really hard to start with, as you start mixing, it's going to soften up. It might take a little bit more work. Mine is kind of in between. It's soft but not liquid. All right, and our deodorant is done. That's what it looks like. It doesn't stain my clothes. It's not invisible deodorant by any means. It will show on your clothes. What I found when I'm wearing sleeveless tops, the best way to do this is use about approximately that much, like a pea size, a little bit larger. And I get my fingers wet and then I rub that on my armpits. And if I'm wearing a sleeveless top, I just make sure that it's fully rubbed in. So I might add a little bit extra water if I need to. And I'll just keep my arms up until it dries, maybe about 30 seconds. And then typically it doesn't get too much on the shirt. And if it does, I just wipe with like a wet towel or a wet rag, wipe it off. And usually within about 5 minutes, any of that residue is gone. And so by the time you're heading out of the house, you shouldn't have any more issues with the deodorant showing up on your shirt. That's how I make deodorant. I love this recipe. I find that it works quite well. To buy a deodorant from the store that is natural and has clean ingredients is very expensive these days, like probably $10 or more. So this I made for a fraction of the cost with ingredients that most people have at home, and it works just as well. You can store this in an old deodorant tube if you have one that's emptied out. If your coconut oil is really soft when you made this is going to be a lot runnier. And I have a friend who still did it. She just put a little bit of tin foil in the bottom to hold it in, or it'll leak out around the edges of your deodorant container. And you keep it in the fridge. Take it out and it'll warm up in your armpits as you start rubbing it on. For me, I just find applying it with my hands is just fine. So I just store mine in a jar or a small container, and I just get it out with my fingers and rub it on my armpits, and that's just my process. All right, the next thing that we're gonna make is some tooth powder. I'm really picky about what we put in our mouths and put on our bodies, and the good natural toothpastes are really expensive. So a few years ago, I learned how to make our own. So I use a clay-based tooth powder with no baking soda in it because I find the baking soda really abrasive and causes a lot of sensitivities. We use 3 different types of clay and charcoal. to make a tooth powder, and some essential oils so that it tastes good. The main ingredient in our tooth powder is bentonite clay. It's pretty gritty. So I actually just take mine, and I'm gonna use a NutriBullet, but you could use a Vitamix or a coffee grinder or a spice grinder. Put the lid on it, and I'm gonna grind it up really fine. It's just gonna make it a lot more pleasant. Otherwise it's gonna get stuck all over in between your teeth. So I only ground it for about 5 to 10 seconds, and it's nice and fine now, so it doesn't take very long. So one thing that's really important when you're making your clay-based tooth powder is to use a non-reactive bowl to mix and to store it in. I am using a ceramic bowl and a wooden spoon. I have my bentonite clay, kaolin clay, French green clay, and activated charcoal. I've put them all in this bowl, 1 to 1 for all of them, just the same amount of each. Now we're gonna add some essential oils. I am using in this batch cinnamon, which is really good for your oral health, and spearmint, just because I think it tastes awesome. So that's what we're gonna add. It depends on how much powder you have as to how many drops of essential oils you're gonna put in. Maybe start at about 10 and then taste it as you go and just make sure it's not gonna be too strong. All right, after we mix that around now, I'm just gonna keep it stored in this little glass jar. Because it's just a tooth powder, all you're gonna do is get your toothbrush wet and dip it in there. I actually have little mini spice jars that I'm gonna label each person's name on and pour a teaspoon or so at a time into each person's jar. And that's what they will get to dip from, so that we're not all double dipping our toothbrushes into the same jar. You can also add some water or coconut oil and make this into a paste and use it like toothpaste. You'll shorten your shelf life if you do that. As long as you make it in small batches, then it's good. Right. And there I have jar full of tooth powder. This is gonna last us, even as a family of 10, quite a while. So the amount of money that I saved making this is actually probably even cheaper than the cheap toothpaste with how long it's gonna last us. So tooth powder that's really good for you, good for your oral health, and good for the rest of your body. One way that I save a lot of money is by making my own household cleaner. Now, I keep it really simple. I don't like to have a lot of ingredients in my home. I try to keep it as simple as I can. Basically, this is what I use. White vinegar and baking soda. That pretty much cleans 90% of the surfaces in my home. All you need is a good spray bottle. You can get those at a dollar store or in the plant section at Walmart. I just fill about 1/10 to 1/5 of the bottle with white vinegar. If I want it to be a little bit more disinfectant, I'll even put sometimes 50-50 vinegar and water. Fill the rest up with water. And that is what I spray on everything. We use that to clean the kitchen, we use that to clean the bathroom, we use that to clean floors, we use that to clean windows. It does great on glass. Now, if you need an abrasive cleaner, it's like sinks, toilets, things like that, that's where the baking soda comes in. You just sprinkle a little bit on and scrub it just like you would any other abrasive cleaner, and it does the exact same job for a fraction of the cost without having your entire cupboard under your sink full of a million different cleaners. So that's all. If I feel like I want my cleaner to smell nice, I'll add some essential oils. Citrus essential oils are great for cleaning, but typically I just stick to vinegar and water. Now, I try really hard to keep my home as toxin-free as possible. And if you buy a lot of products that are toxin-free and already ready to go, that costs a lot of money. It's really expensive. Another way that I've saved money but stayed toxin-free is to make all of our own soaps. Now, by make, I don't actually make castile soap. Maybe I'll get there one day, but I do buy the soap already ready to go. This is just pure, undiluted castile soap, and this is one of a lot of brands. The main thing is to make sure that it's undiluted, because that's where you're gonna save money. So this we use for hand soap, dish soap, body wash, and the boys use it to wash their hair. Us girls are a little bit more particular about what we wash our hair with, but for the boys, they don't care. So depending on what we're using it for, I water it down a little bit differently. When we're using it for hand soap, body wash, and hair care, the ratio is about 1 to 4. 1 part soap, 4 parts water. So it lasts quite a while. This little bottle goes a long ways. For dish soap, I will water it down less, but I'll still only do about 1 to 3, 1 part soap to 3 parts water. The soap is gonna last a long ways, and it's only 1 bottle for all of those things that I need to do in my house. The one key thing that I have noticed with using castile soap is because it tends to come out more watery, they will just keep pumping more and more. But really, that soap is so concentrated, it feels watery. It's just because they don't add any thickeners to it. That's all it is. So one of the most important things is to use foaming soap pumps. So you can order those off Amazon, Personally, I just find members of my family that buy foaming soap and then grab their bottles when they're empty from them. My sister saves up her soap pumps for me all the time, and that's what I usually use to make all my soap mixes in. That's it for our last episode of Frugal February. I hope you guys found some great tips in at least one of these episodes. Don't forget to check out the collaborating channels, and if you really loved this video, please share it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other weekly vlogs that showcase our large family and our daily lives. Thanks so much for watching.